Sarosh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marcus. Excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you here. So let's get started with a quick background on yourself and your company, Spotnana.
Well, a little bit more about Spotnana. We're rebuilding the infrastructure for travel, and I know that's quite ambitious, as most people would think so. But a little bit about my background. I've been in the tech space for the last few years, and especially around focusing a lot around travel. I spent the last 25 years of my life building out different travel companies and deeply understand that space. And like any one of us that travels, we know how frustrating travel can be or has been for all of us. It's one of those few industries that has such a massive impact on all of us in our daily lives, but unfortunately, we don't have the same experiences that we have with other products or other services that we use in our day-to-day life. A simple example that comes to my mind is think of Amazon, right? If I were to ask you, Marcus, do you shop on Amazon? You tell me, Sarosh, I do this every day. I love that experience. I instead of buying one thing, I'll buy 10. And do you know why I buy those 10 things? It's because it's so easy to return them. It's just seamless. And if you think about this one statement, there's no shopping experience in the world that is that seamless where when it comes to returning the product, you have to think twice. I mean, these days, you walk up to a UPS store, you dangle this in front of the counter, and someone beautifully wraps it up for you. You don't even have to take your packaging back, or you don't even need to have a receipt. You can have a QR code, scan it, and by the time you take 10 steps and walk out of the UPS store, you have the refund in the palm of your hand. I mean, the level of trust and the user experience, when they say they're one of the most customer obsessed companies in the world, this is a true example of that. But I role play another example for you and say, Marcus, 3 weeks from now, you and I need to go to London. And from London, we need to go to Frankfurt and then come back. We have meetings in these locations. What do you and I do? Start looking for hotels in those locations, start looking for flights. And every one of us is trying to see what are the 10 different websites from Google Flights to everything else out there. We compare prices because deep down, you and I both feel there's a deal to be had. Why is it when it comes to travel, we don't trust the price or we feel we have the need to shop? But when I gave you the Amazon example and I asked you before you clicked on the buy now button of Amazon, did you open 5 different tabs and compare prices with 10 different vendors? You're like, no, who even does that? I looked at Amazon, I trusted it, and boom, it was done. But when it comes to travel, that's not the case. Whether it's business travel or if it's personal travel, it's even then a lot more. It's just the way travel has been. And Spotnana's mission is to create that trust and transparency. How do you build out this platform that provides all the inventory in the world, gives you unbiased content, and creates just a far more superior experience than what you've seen today? I mean, trust and the pricing is just one aspect of it, but the after hour service that comes along with it, when you need to cancel a flight, you got to wait for hours to do that. On the other hand, I just give you an example of Amazon. There's no one you call. There's no one you print out and take a return label to. I mean, Uber. If you lose your phone on Uber, you even can't call them back. You have to go through a bunch of steps and then the driver will bring back your phone. That's the beauty of the platform. And exactly how it has been for us in our daily lives with Netflix and Spotify. You have just amazing experiences. But when it comes to travel, we just don't have the level of comfort that we were looking for. Why do I have to wait for several hours to get a response back? Or if I need a refund on a ticket, why is it so complex? Why can't I just choose what I want and get on with it? But travel is not that way. It's just because of the underlying infrastructure that powers the travel for some of the world's biggest companies. It's just infrastructure that was built in the 1960s. And it still powers some of the world's largest travel companies even today. Our whole mission and purpose is not only provide trust and transparency, but build this new infrastructure and create an open platform that can give others an opportunity to build better experiences for all of us. So, Spotnana's initial mission is to build around business travel. Business travel is a massive industry. It's almost 1.6 trillion, if not more. And, during COVID, obviously, this industry got affected, but it's one of those industries that's just resilient. It has come back and You see the prices what airlines and hotels are charging us. I feel like they are out of control these days. It's just insane to see the prices that they are charging us these days. And as the demand has come back, I feel the quality of the experience that we have on booking travel or on consuming business travel is just not kept up to par with some of the other technologies that we use in our day-to-day lives. So our whole premise is how do you build out this new stack and provide this far superior experience for corporations and for travel management companies or travel agencies that service this audience at the end of the day. How do we create things that are far more efficient, that just create a pleasurable experience at the end of the day? That's really the most important thing that we are focused on.
I love the idea. And before this interview, I was reflecting on some of my own personal travel experiences. And I remember one instance in particular that happened a few years ago where I was traveling. I'm from Toronto originally, and I was going to the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador. And I flew out of Toronto. I had a connecting flight in Miami. So it was Toronto, Miami, Miami to Guayaquil in Ecuador. And then I was going to go to the Galapagos. And I had a different airline from Toronto to Miami than from Miami to Ecuador. And the first flight, the connecting flight from Toronto to Miami, it ended up leaving late. And I ended up
Oh,
missing my flight to Ecuador.
you
And
should.
because it was two separate airlines, I wasn't easily able to get a refund for my missed flight. And they basically told me, hey, we can't do anything because it's a different airline. And then I
Yeah.
went over to the airline lineup in the airport to see if I could talk to them. And there was about 200 people in the line. And I said, I am not doing this. And I ended up having to buy a new flight from Miami to Ecuador out of my own pocket. So I love this idea. And I just kind of accepted it as what it is. But I love the idea of how you compare that to Amazon and just bringing that really customer centric experience to travel. Because I think for a lot of us, we've just kind of accepted that travel is like this and we haven't thought there was a way for it to change.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things we take for granted that it is this bad and we'll deal with it. But I don't think anything else in our lives you would accept. And, travel is such a big component of our day to day lives. It brings us all closer together. Think about what happened during COVID and how we all felt. And once everything came back to normal, we realized how much we take for granted, right? And this is one of those industries where I feel that the impact is huge. And, we always say that at Spotnana, someone's got to clean the gutter. And that's what we decided to do. It's got to fix that infrastructure, got to fix that plumbing, and to create a better tomorrow.
Love it. And it's a very ambitious project. So I'm very excited to dive into how you guys are solving that. But to set a bit more of the context about the business, what's the current state of the business with any metrics that you have that you're comfortable sharing?
Sure, I think we started off in Jan 2020. We've built an amazing team over the last 5 years. We've around 320 odd employees and growing. We have offices in the US as well as India. New York is our headquarters. And I think a large portion of the team is around product and engineering. This is a pretty ambitious project, as you said. We're challenging the status quo. There are a lot of things that need to be rebuilt, and infrastructure platform plays they're hard, they're complex, and this industry that we are in, travel, is quite antiquated. But we're fortunate that we built an amazing team. We've been well funded and capitalized, and we're continuing to grow.
And what made you decide? I know you said mentioned that you've worked in the travel industry for 25 years, so you brought a lot of firsthand experience before starting Spotnana. But at what point made you decide that this was a business worth pursuing?
You know, my journey has been quite unique. I was in consulting, doing tech consulting. Then I had a startup doing software. Did that for 2 years, and then for whatever reason, couldn't find a job and stumbled into travel. And it was purely out of a hobby with my obsession with frequent flyer miles. You have blogs these days with all these folks writing. I was doing that back in the day in 2002. So this obsession with travel, one thing led to another, and I was that travel agent that you called, get me out of here, or my flight is wrongly booked, or what's the best possible fare? Why do I see this online at this price? Why are you charging me this? I've been that person. I still am. I'm still at At the core of it, I'm still a travel agent. You need to deeply understand and do all of this manually before you can build systems and technology that can help you automate. And that's really what I've learned over the last several years, is understanding that why do things happen the way they do. And the previous company before starting Spotnana, uh, we were a travel management company exploring doing some internal technology, and one thing led to another. Where inherently I always wanted to build technology, and I'm like, how do you build something that will scale? You know, typically travel companies, at least in the service space, are built by human labor, by throwing agents at the problem, throwing human beings at the problem, not through technology. That's just how the industry has operated over the last several years. And the whole focus is like, just let's look at this example you gave me, right? You're, you're number 201 in that line waiting for it. But imagine I had sent you an alert in the palm of your hand and said, here are your options. The last flight is at 9 p.m. It's right now 2 p.m. Do you want to wait till 9, or do you want to buy a new ticket? Here are your options. You could have clicked it, hung out at where you were, and you would have gone on with whatever you, or you knew that someone's going to take care of me at 9 p.m. Oh, things happen, weather happens, delays happen. Who's doing what about it proactively? But what did you have to do? You'd either have to wait for 8 hours on the phone call, or have some human intervention instead of system and instead of processes, or access to infrastructure that could make those changes for you seamlessly. You'd have that, today when you're traveling on an Uber, you want to make a change to your route. Yes, the price difference, and you're done with it, right? You don't even have to talk to the driver. He gets an alert while driving live, the changes happen. But travel, this didn't happen. This doesn't happen. That's what we're solving for. Instead of having 10,000 agents waiting on a call center to answer your next question, or to deal with a flight disruption or a change, etc. That's really the impetus. And I just believe that, for me, I've been doing this for so long that I'm like, if there's anyone that needs to solve it, this has to be us. We deeply understand it. And the real essence of Spotman and the DNA that we've created, we've just got some of the world's best technologists, but people who deeply understand travel as well. That's the whole impetus of us starting this, is like, how do you build something and change an industry and leave it better than it was previously? That's really what's driving us to continue doing this and pushing this. When you say it's ambitious, it is. I won't deny it. It is hard, but I think you get very rarely do you get an opportunity to rechange and reshape something that is that impactful. That, even as you said, this is not something that complex travel you and I can relate to from a common man perspective. And and you can feel it, and you know what you want. We always say at Spartan, if how would Steve Jobs build travel? That's my benchmark. How we want to build product. How would Steve Apple reimagine travel if they had to? And you got to keep trying. And if that's what you are aiming for, it's a tall order. So we keep pushing every day.
The one thing I love about your story is that you have the experience as a technical founder before working with startups, and then you've been obsessed with travel for so long, which makes you a great person to start this kind of business. I had this interview with a founder last week who started a CRM for moving companies. And he wasn't a technical founder. It was his first time really building software. But his grandfather actually started a moving business that his father inherited and that he grew up with. So he was wearing the uniform when he was a little kid, and he just really deeply understood this industry so well through decades of knowledge. And he was able to build a product that was so tailored to solving this very specific problem for this very specific people, with decades of knowledge of understanding the ins and outs of how it worked, that it was a wildly successful business. So I love seeing that, where there's decades of experience beforehand, and then it goes into creating a software product to solve it at a large scale. So next, I'd love to dive into how exactly is Spotnana solving this problem, and what sort of products do you guys have? Because I know you have an API that people can build on top of, and I believe you have a white label product as well. And I'm not sure if you guys have an application or not where people can directly book. Maybe you have all three. So can you dive into that and explain how exactly you guys are going about solving this problem?
Sure. So, Spartan is building out the whole stack, and I'm not just talking of the UI, the front end. We're just talking of the whole mid office, the middle layer, as well as, at the end of the day, the system of record. Really building this from ground up. And if you think about it, compared to, at least in the business travel space, there are a bunch of players that focus on the UI, UX, but the underlying infrastructure is still the legacy infrastructure that is powered by uh, companies such as the GDSs, etc. Our whole premise was we'd build these direct connections with airlines, hotels, etc. Bring in other content from the GDS as well, but build a layer on top of that. So you become the system of record or the system of engagement.
Hmm.
And the whole premise with Spotnana would keep the platform open and be API first, where you allow others to create innovation on top of you. To truly be called a platform, you have to make sure that people in that ecosystem and people who build on you can make more money than you do. That's really when you can call yourself a platform, when you're creating value for everybody else, not just yourself. And it depends on what strategy you want to take and what appeals to you at the end of the day. But a platform play is very intentional, because you're going to help others create more value on top of you at the end of the day, right? And that's where you expose your APIs. You create innovation design partners early on so that they can take what you have and then take it to the next level. And that's the whole premise of Spotnana's open API approaches, where other companies, we have companies like expense management companies like Brex, Zoho, Center, etc., that can build travel on top of you. And that's the beauty of the infrastructure that we build. So tomorrow, a technology company that, say, focused on HR or focused on expense management, accounting, whatever, and they want to get into travel, they white label your APIs, and inside their own platform, they can start selling travel. Now, that is something that's hard, that has previously not been done before. It's very easy slapping your logo and saying it's white label. When I'm talking of deep technical integration, where your platform is deeply embedded in someone else and no one even knows that it's Spotnana behind the scenes, you'll feel that it's your own platform. And that's when you can say, like, you're a platform creating more value for everybody else. And obviously, that's one aspect of the business. The other aspect is, inside of corporations, employees travel. We have the whole application, the front end, etc., that people interact with and book their travel through. Behind the scenes is a travel agency. And the other aspect of the tech stack is what's inside of a travel agency. The travel agent that you call to make changes, etc. What tools they have that they can service you better. So those kinds of things. So it's like really a full stack. It's vertically integrated, and at the same time, it has APIs that we expose it. Tomorrow, you want to take something and build on top of it, whatever you want, you have the ability to do so. So the approach has been very different than what most people have taken in travel or to solve, because again, this is an $11 trillion industry. There are so many different touch points and so many different use cases to solve for. Our approach was, let's build this in this particular manner where we could not only have the maximum impact, but create a lot of value along the way. So that's the approach that we've taken.
Yeah, I love the approach of allowing people to innovate on top of your platform. Because I look at tools that I use nowadays, like ChatGPT, for example, and all of the millions of things that you can build on top of this one technology that leads to innovation that perhaps the founders never thought of when they built the technology, but having this value creating engine that lots of people can use, it just enables the whole industry to grow and all this innovation to happen. So is Spotnano one of the first company that's doing this? Because I know you guys are pioneering a a category called travel as a service. So are you guys the first company that's really gone after this, well, solving the problem in this sort of way?
Uh, I mean, yes, came up with the term travel as a service. It was more to, what software as a service has been now. It's a play off that, but are we the only company in the world? You never know who's doing what out there, and travel is such a big space, and there are lots of people doing lots of amazing things. Uh, so I don't think we would say we're the only ones out there, just because I don't know. That's the first thing I want to acknowledge. But at the same time, we feel we have a path. We're focused on really what we're doing, and we feel like at the end of the day, what impact are you creating for your customers or your partners? That's really, really important for us, and the way and the approach that we've taken on building and on deploying the Spotnana platform. So we've been very thoughtful in that approach, that what are the key components we'll build, because at the end of the day, when scaling tech companies or working with enterprise clients, Clients have an insatiable appetite. They're never satisfied. They always want more, and it's always a balancing act, right? What am I going to do now versus do this later versus I have only one hose and I have 20 fires and I can only put out two right now. So it's when you talk about the category, yes, there's a category being created, and we call it travel as a service, and we call it as a service is just because of the fact that there are so many things that you can build on top of the platform, so much more you can do with it. We're not trying to solve everything for everybody. That's the other thing. We want to keep enough out there that others can solve for it, because we have enough on our plate. And one thing that you've realized as a startup is startups die out of indigestion, not starvation. That's really important to understand, because there's so much in front of you. You get little success somewhere and then you feel like you want to do it all, and I'm like, no, no, let's do little. Let's do it well. You'll get permission to build more. I think that's really the important thing is in this journey is it's about pacing yourself right. That's this the hardest thing to do, because you are competing with so many different things. There's only limited time, the limited resources, and you want to hit those revenue numbers, and at the same time be thoughtful about how you're hitting those revenue numbers. What do you want to invest in today versus tomorrow? It's always a balancing act.
Mhm. So I want to dive into more of that in the business model and how you guys are generating revenue. One quick question before we dive into that is what sort of technical challenges have you faced building? Because you mentioned previously that it's a lot of engineers on the team, and I know you're dealing with very complex legacy systems that have been around for a long time. So can you dive into some of the technical challenges that you guys have faced and that you're continuing that you are perhaps currently facing and how you guys are going about solving those challenges?
I think some of the biggest technology challenges have been is the legacy systems that you have to integrate with at times. There's only so much innovation you can do at your end versus some of the integration work that's done. Travel is a lot of integration work that's required, and then maintaining those integrations while creating innovation on top of them. You're dependent sometimes on the suppliers to make those changes. Like, give a simple example: buying an airline ticket. You buy it from any OTA. There's not a lot of personalization. You buy the price and that's it. But you buy it from an airline website. Can I sell you Wi-Fi with it? Can I sell you lounge access with it? Can I make this ticket non-refundable, refundable? Or can give you 3-day changes free? All this innovation of the personalization that Amazon does for you, we're trying to build that with the airlines or with hoteliers and create that personalization inside this tech stack, and then expose it to you and several other folks that you can downward distribute it to. So there are all these challenges of not only just from a technical integration perspective, but at the same time licensing or the ability to just the way content is distributed. So there are lots of different touch points that you have to manage. Sometimes they're not even technical challenges, just industry challenges, because the industry is used to categorizing you in one particular way that if I give you access to this, you can only sell to Y. I'm like, but I can sell to Y and A, B, and C as well. Why are you restricting me? Oh, just that's just because the way the contract was. I'm like, we need to change that. So there's a lot of learning that happens behind the scenes. So when you're doing this, as you kept saying, something so ambitious, sometimes it's not about the money, or it's not about the resources. It's not always an engineering problem. Yes, a large part of it is, but sometimes it's just how the industry operates. The economic infrastructure that drives travel too is what we're trying to change. And that's really important here, is because you're up against a lot of incumbents, and just this is the way the business is done. The most famous thing, I'm like, why do we do it this way? That's just how it's done. No one has explained to you why, and it's perfectly fine. We got here, great. What are we doing for tomorrow? I'm not interested in what happened yesterday. I'm interested in how are we going to change this for tomorrow, and having that mindset, right? So how are we going to navigate that? What am I going to do on technology or product right now that'll help me unlock that value down the line? But I'm going to continue working on unlocking that down the line today and work towards that, right? Just because I said so, it doesn't happen. Nothing happens because I said so. That's just how life is. So having that, you know, always keeping that at the back of your mind. What are we doing today that will unlock for tomorrow? And that's really how you want to build product, or solve for these engineering problems, because everything cannot be done today, and it can be as amazing as it is from an innovation standpoint. Sometimes the timing is just not right. Sometimes you have to wait and pause and, I'll slow this out. I'm not going to invest in this today. I'm going to invest in this down the line till I can see a path for it to commercialize it, or I can see this will be so much better. And sometimes you do things that are right for the customer, even though you don't get paid for it, because you would just believe that this is just the right thing to do. I don't want you to wait for 8 hours. I want you to make a change in the palm of your hand. I don't want you to call a human being to make a change. Why should you have to do that? Why can't I give you full access? You can make a change to your flight and get on with your day, right? So it's just about building those things and, pacing yourself out accordingly.
That's very interesting. I guess I can see with an industry that has been around for a long time, perhaps with not a lot of innovation. There's a lot of things, as you mentioned, where it's like we've been doing this one thing a specific way for so long. We've accepted it as the status quo. And then, as you guys are thinking with innovation, it's like, oh, we can actually do something else. And then, as you mentioned, there's maybe some conversations you have to have, changing the contracts, etc. But I find that really interesting where, yeah, sometimes when people have been doing something for so long, like even with my experience with travel, I just accepted that this is how it is. I wasn't thinking that, hey, maybe this could be done better.
No, it is. It's just about anything in life, right? Or anything that we're doing, we sometimes just accept it because we feel that's the status quo, and that's just want to get on with it, right? Move on to the next thing. But it's often said that sometimes we must pause so we may rise. So
Mm-hmm. So let's dive into a bit of the business model and how you guys are making money. So when we get into your ideal, or first of all, what's your revenue model? So people are building on top of the platform. Do you mind diving into how you price, what your pricing model is like and how that works?
it just depends on the kinds of customers that we have. But typically, it's a consumption-based model, you know, uh, per trip fee kind of model. That's typically how we make money.
Okay, cool. And how have you guys gone about acquiring new customers? As a lot of, I know you guys work with a lot of travel agencies who are building on top of the applications. Do you guys have specific growth channels that you have focused on?
I think Spartan has had a very unique journey. We've got, I think the channel partners are really key for us. Our channel partners who have built on top of us, white labeled our solutions, and then sold to thousands of their customers. That's really something that has really resonated. It's the same thing with travel management companies, right? A travel agency serving various corporations. You build out the entire stack for the travel agency, and then they can sell to thousands of other corporations and they continue to scale. So I think that model has something that has worked for us really well and has scaled for us.
Okay, and how do you guys usually enter those conversations? Is it a lot of people who are in your network that you know, or do most of the travel agencies know each other and it's very easy to scale the business with those connections?
I don't know if it's easy to scale the business with those connections, but I can tell you that it's people know each other. Yes, we've had, I mean, as I said, been in this industry for so long, so you know a lot of people. But at the same time, I think a lot of our early customers have really gone out there and validated what we're doing or continue to validate what we're doing. Where we've just got a lot of inbound interest. We're at a very unique position where we have a lot of inbound interest from several folks, from corporations or channel partners or travel management companies or technology companies that want to, or even suppliers, that want to build on top of us or white label us. That we've been very fortunate in that sense.
Interesting. I imagine you guys also have a very big, well, the developers, I assume, work with the developers from other companies to onboard them, understand the process, etc. So it's very important for the engineers to also be customer facing.
Yes, we have a product team, engineers. A lot of them are customer facing because uh, these are some complex, large implementations with several large companies. So there's a lot of compliance as well. Scalability, fault tolerance systems, etc. That it's just not about the products, it's about the environment that you build this in as well. And with these large, Fortune 500 companies, there are lots of steps that you have to pass before you even get inside the house. However attractive your value proposition is, it and compliance is always there to make sure that you can get through that rigor.
100%. And then going forward, do you have any big initiatives or growth strategies that you guys are looking at?
I think this year is just pivotal for us to go live with several of our large flagship customers, bring the product to life at scale. We're already transacting with several customers, but some of these large enterprise deployments that are going to be global in nature, where corporations have like 60, 80 offices worldwide, and few hundreds of thousands of those employees will be using the platform throughout those countries. I think that's really our big goal this year, is how do we unlock those large customers that we've signed a while ago and bring them to life. So focus right now is just heads down, focus on execution, and just do a great job of this and make sure that we bring this vision to life.
Hmm. No, that's amazing. So, in terms of okay, so we've talked about the future plans and how you guys are going to grow. Now we'll kind of slow down the interview and get into a few closing thoughts here. So, in terms of, I know you are a big travel person yourself. Do you have any personal travel destinations that are some of your favorites?
I think the two that come to my mind is obviously uh, Tokyo. And I mean, Japan, everything about Japan, I find not only fascinating, but I find it inspiring. And the other destination that I love is obviously San Sebastian in Spain.
San Sebastian, is that an island in Spain or
Spain.
okay.
It's in Spain on the border of France.
Okay, interesting. I'll have to check that out. So, I'm originally from Toronto, but I've spent some time in Mexico and I'm currently in Colombia. So
Oh,
I've been doing a bit of the digital nomad thing myself, which is why I'm extremely interested to see how you guys continue to develop over the next few years. So,
yeah.
and I saw recently as well that Spotnana was ranked 45th on the out of 500 on the Forbes America's Best Startup Employers. So I'd like to dive into your perspective on company building, how you go about fostering a culture of innovation within your companies, and as a leader of the company, how you go about, yeah, building your companies and ensuring that your employees are happy.
I think one is we're very fortunate we have such an amazing team. Though it has been a remote first company for the longest time, people love to get together. Last year, we hosted our offsite in Dubai. We had, I think 250, 280 odd people from all over the world got together. And I think the mission and the mission that Spotnana has is something that everyone's bought into. And I think that's so fundamentally important because, culture happens when you're not watching. How are people so motivated to do this? And I'm honestly very grateful for that. I think one of our uh, the way we've gone about building the platform and this approach to open APIs, etc., that we fostered is like our whole mission has been is like how do you build longer tables and not higher walls? My obsession with food, which everyone knows at Spotnana is pretty rampant. I've translated that even in our approach on how we want to build our company. Want to build for everybody else, which is why I was talking about the whole platform first approach. Is how do you create value for everybody in the ecosystem? How do you carry everyone across the finish line? The joy of that and doing that together with a bunch of people that you truly care about is really what makes great companies. I always say that Google never got the search algorithm right. Google got the right people who wrote the right search algorithm. At the end of the day, scaling people is the hardest thing, even in technology companies. But if you're able to unlock that, you truly have an opportunity to build something truly generational. However amazing your ideas might be, or whatever your vision is, you can't do any of this without people. And I think uh, at the end of the day, time is the only currency you spend knowing without what the balance is. You got to use it wisely. That's really fundamentally important. And who you invest with, you're known by the company you keep, so you might as well do it with people that truly matter, because then it won't be work. And I think as you scale companies, getting the right leaders to help you scale, be in the rooms where you know the least, be in rooms where you can learn the most from. I think that is so fundamentally important, especially if your goals are ambitious, if you're trying to change an entire industry, you alone can't do this. And I think that's the biggest thing about the culture that we want to foster with everybody inside of Spotnana and outside, right? You're not going to learn only from everyone inside of Spotnana. You're going to learn from your partners. You're going to learn from your customers. And how do you incorporate that in your day-to-day thought process? It's those small things, the things that you might not think of at that moment, but then they'll come back to you. But the most important thing is you should be patient enough to listen, and and make sure that if you're able to do that, that's the kind of culture you build. And people follow leaders. People follow what you do, not what you say. And I think I'm always learning. I have a long, long way to go. And my goal is, how do you just build the best team that is going to change the face of travel at the end of the day? And, doing this together with people that move the needle and that you truly care about is really, there's no secret to this, honestly, and scaling companies is hard. If anyone said it's not, I promise you, it's not for everybody. And I used to always think for the longest time that anyone can be an entrepreneur. Like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But then I've realized over time, it's just about what you choose. What do you choose to spend your time with, or who do you choose to spend your time with? And, uh, how much patience you have. Really, you truly do get tested. Building companies that have to be rapidly scaled with deadlines and with multiple priorities pulling at you. Uh, you just learn to be not only flexible, but you learn to pace yourself out. Like, everything cannot happen on day one. I have to remind myself that I cannot run this marathon as a sprinter. I have to pause too, but it's frustrating. I won't deny it, but it is what it is.
Well said. And how do you go about attracting top talent to your company?
I think I think one of the things that resonates about Spotnana is, like, when I'm even talking to you, you understand travel. I didn't have to explain it to you. You just understood it. It's just one of those, I always say, travel is a human emotion. It connects all of us. And when we say the mission of what we're trying to do, I think that's one thing that attracts people. And then I think when people start interviewing the folks, the leaders, the team that is there at Spotnana that has helped build it, I think that's really what resonates with people at the end of the day. Because however amazing the opportunity is, or however well you create compensation packages for people, I think the one thing that moves people more than anything else is acknowledgement. Human beings need to feel purposeful and need to feel acknowledged. And I think if they feel that they can contribute to something much bigger than themselves, I think that's really what resonates with people. So when they interview or they go through what Spotnana has to offer, they feel they're part of something that's much bigger than them. And I think that's really important. And how do you create something that you can leave a mark on? Or do you even get an option to do that in this lifetime? And I think that's really important. I'm so grateful that I have an option to do that, and uh, just share that with everybody else too, right? And that's what our team has been doing all along. We have an incredible team, and that continues to believe in this mission. So
100%. Once somebody has that intrinsic motivation, and if it's a problem that they enjoy solving, or that can affect their lives in a positive way, that intrinsic motivation allows people to do their best work. So,
exactly.
as we start to wind down here, obviously you've been through quite a long entrepreneurial journey. You've had a few companies along the way. What's the number one piece of advice, Arosh, that you would give to your younger self?
I think there's so many advices, but and I'm still learning. I don't know it all. So let me start by saying that. But I think in life you get what you fight for, not what you wish for. I think that's really, really important. It's what are you willing to do, and I think entrepreneurship is all about that. Uh, I think what matters to you, what are you, how much of the uncomfortableness are you willing to deal with, is really how when magic happens. Let's put it that way. Pain is equal to growth. I always say that, but there is truth and there's wisdom to that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Sarosh, where can people go to learn more about you and Spotnana?
I think they need to learn more about Spartana. There's nothing to learn about me, but you can go to spartana.com. There's where we're telling everyone what we're doing, and what we're fighting for every day. I'm just trying to build this platform that can leave travel and can create an inedible mark on travel, and make a difference in all our day-to-day lives. Really, that's what our big focus is on. And I think I think the last few years, when COVID happened, it really at least for all of us, in some shape, form, personally, professionally, it helped us recalibrate so many things. It took so much for granted. And if you think about it, travel was the number one industry that was decimated. There was no industry that was as badly affected as travel. You think about it. Yes, a lot of things happened with a lot of companies, but an industry that just came to a halt. And you know what it made us feel. And you take so much of that for granted, right? Who would have thought 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? I mean, just got so much got recalibrated. And I feel like that's the really one thing is like sometimes you just have to reinvent yourself and keep coming back and figure out what's next. And when you ask me what advice would I give my younger self, that list is endless. There's so many things I would not do, but just I think, and there are so many things I would still continue to do. Right? There's always a yin and a yang. At the end of the day, there's no perfect answer to this, but I think it comes back to what are you willing to give up and what are you willing to get at the end of the day. It's prioritization, ruthless prioritization, as they say, and that only comes unfortunately with experience. You can't say that to someone who's young because they have to make those experiences, whether they call them mistakes or not. You can't skip that, unfortunately. So it's so a lot of people ask me what advice you would give me. I'm like, listen, I'm still learning. I'm not in a position to give anybody advice. I don't have all the answers myself, but all I can say is, like I tell myself that just be patient. It'll happen. And you sometimes, as an entrepreneur, founder, you have to generate a lot of positivity, not only for yourself but for everyone else around you, right? Even when you don't believe it at times, but that goes with the territory, right? You have to sleep on the bed you make, and
Mhm.
people are looking at you, looking up to you, looking for what you have to say next. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, and never take that for granted. Never take people's trust for granted. And I think that's really important. How you build, how you be transparent, and just what are the values and principles that you're going to live by at the end of the day. Because people will always see your actions, and I think that's the single biggest thing.
Well said, Sarosh. Well, I've very much enjoyed this conversation. I love what you guys are doing, as it's a problem that most people can relate to in one way or another. And the other thing I really love is that you're enabling other businesses to grow and innovate on top of your platform, which I see is super important to allowing the pie to get bigger and for things to continue to grow and for problems to continue to be solved. So, Sarosh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and I've enjoyed catching up with you.